Diaz,
Abstain.
Mr. Van Stone,
Yes.
Ms. Dorsey,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes. Brings us to our first public comments section of the evening, agenda items only. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, we will open the public comments for agenda items only at this time. Each speaker should state his or her name and address. You will have 3 minutes to address the board, which will be timed by myself. We will limit this section to no longer than 45 minutes. Please be respectful and mindful that your comments are being recorded. And I guess we don't really have a position for public comments in the room.
You think right in front of
Right
you,
in front of the,
TNC.
yeah, that would be perfect. None, I'll also ask if we have any virtual comments.
No.
We have none?
Nope.
Okay. Seeing none, may I have, I'll make a motion to close public comments.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to the remainder of our presentations. I can safely assume that.
It's not communicated.
Sure. So, I believe that's the principal's report and athletics report from Mr. John Conley.
Where would you like me to stand, Mr. Dunn?
Probably
On that
somewhere
side?
over here so we can get you on,
All right.
on film.
The camera. Love it. Okay. The CNC machine over here. Good evening, everybody. Happy August as we're here and getting ready to go. So I'll give a brief update on where we're at. I feel like everybody's all good. Sorry about that. It's like behind the scenes. So just want to say thank you to, most important, to our custodial maintenance staff, building and grounds, secretaries, IT staff, transportation, summer staff that come in, summer students that come in and help, because they have a monumental job of working through getting our school ready for the school year, as they always do. In particular, obviously, with all of the work that's going on, it's also, hard to keep everything clean and spick and span, to say. So kudos to them for getting us ready to open the doors next week. Just wanted to make sure that we publicly thank them for the great job that they do every single day. Our staff and students and parent communication all went out, so for those of you that are in the room and also our dual role as parents, you received that. It's a lot of information at once for the veteran parents. I know we have some ninth grade parents as well. It's a lot. We try to make it as efficient as process, and we're always open here to answer any questions in this forum or in others. That's what we're here for. So spoke to a lot of first-time freshman parents who have that nervous feel, much like we are as you drop your kids off for college. The same feel and the same anxiousness that arises. So working through that as well, but that information has all gone out. We have gotten much better with Genesis and using that as our nexus of communication. It's taken some time to transition to get to there. So we do a summer mailing, which is hard copy mailing, as well as through email and digital, and that seems to work best. We tried to move completely away from the hard copy mailing years ago, and found that was less effective. Sometimes now, especially post-COVID, something that's hard copy, receiving that, because you get inundated, we all do, with emails and digital communications. Getting a hard copy of something is like, okay, I gotta remember this is important. So we try to do some say the dates and reminders that way to seem to kind of stick out, so people can look at that and say, okay, this is something I really have to look at. This is something an email I can read later, or sometimes not at all, depends on what it is. That's the reality too. So all of our forms are through Genesis, and again, you as parents have seen that. Thank you to Ms. Delaney, our special ed child study team and guidance staff and our supervisors for getting our master schedule ready to go for the school year. It takes a lot of work, pretty much from about November on through August, to get that all finalized and working. And Mr. Campbell knows that as well, as we work together on that. And it's a large task, but we're looking good in that. And again, our goal is to be as student-centered as possible based on the staffing availability that we have in the building. And obviously that's certification driven in some capacities as well. So we're excited to open the doors. I hate to say to close the school year and the opening of school year, but that's really the reality of what it is. We're opening the doors. It's been awesome to see our campus buzzing in the last couple of weeks. For those of you that are parents, dropping your kids off 18 times for practices and scrimmages and all those things. My daughter's coming back from Voorhees right now from a scrimmage. That's the reality of what you're seeing. So it's great to have that life. Somebody asked me, that's not education, the other day, like, you work all summer, how's that for you? And I said, well, it's not the same, right? Obviously there's a lot of paperwork and things that we have to do, reports that we get done at the end of the year, and then it's turn the page and get ready for planning. But once you start to see the students come back in the building and the staff come back in the building, that turns it from a building back into a school. And that's really the feeling that you start to see. A couple of things for key dates. September 5th is our freshman orientation. We still do that. It's a half-day program for our 9th graders, and they come in for a half day, and they get a chance to meet their counselors and go through their schedule and take a breath a little bit. It's kind of really a fourth step of transition from our 8th grade tours in the fall to our 8th grade open house to our 8th grade picnic aspect in the spring to now the 9th grade orientation day. So really tell them from the beginning when they come to see us in the fall, you're going to have kind of 4 intentional steps along the way. Coming from regional school, that's a challenge, but also a blessing as well. And the 6th is the first full day for students to really open the doors, right, and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and fix it along the way, which is sometimes challenging but also exciting. Our 9th grade parent night for 9th grade parents is the 12th, and at 7 p.m. we will be sending out very shortly, probably tomorrow. I'll say the date for that. The 19th of September is excuse me, our back to school night, and that's at 6:45. We try to start a little bit earlier with the welcome so we can hopefully get everybody out as parents, especially veteran parents that have been there before. A chance to be there and not be there till 10 o'clock at night is also important as well. And for our fall sports, as we said, they're in full swing. From the athletic director, Mr. Dexter, and they are rocking and rolling. We do have, for the first time, a football game before school, which is not a scrimmage, which is going to be Thursday against Walco. So if you're looking for something fun, come out at 5 o'clock on Thursday night. Looks like the weather's going to be nice, about 75 and beautiful, for our home football kickoff against Walker Valley, our next door neighbors. So, any questions about all that? I know it was a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Thank you, Mr. Talmadge, for being the leader that the community can place their trust in when they send their kids here. They know that there is someone in whom they can trust to care about and love their kids, all day, every day, and that you provide a degree of comfort and stability to the community. And you do an exceptional job of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. We appreciate that. And that is our goal, right? Be parents all the time to hang on our kids as much as we can. Right? Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
James, I want to stop it for you, so you're good to go.
Okay, nice.
Let me take a quick away though.
So I've got some CNC milling that I'd like to do for you.
Oh boy. Safety glasses,
Oh,
please.
yeah?
I think Mr. Dunn might be the only one in the room who has some idea what's going on over here. It's safe to say?
Well,
I think it is. So we have quite a bit to go over, so I'll try and kind of get moving. Pleased to have SCCC here. I want to thank Mr. Kapler, who spent 3 days this summer at the County College training on this device. But as Dr. Connolly said, we are a lighthouse district when it comes to technology. And I think over the last 3 decades, Mr. Mark Wallace's leadership and Mr. Brian Drellick's leadership played really seminal roles in establishing us as such a strong tech school. So thank you to them and that legacy that they've helped to establish. So on the agenda tonight are our goals for next year. And I broke them up into 2 and 2. I think it's important. These are the same goals that we had last year. It's important sometimes to realize that if it's important, it's not a one and done, right? So we will continue to work on wellness, and we will continue to increase our collaboration with teachers, which was highly successful last year. We've also added that we're going to be increasingly focused on vaping, and that approach will be rather comprehensive, including prevention, but consequences as well. And I think Dr. Ripley took a leadership role in the region with the Department of Health and the Department of Education, creating a conversation about how various schools are going to attack that. And so we're going to be even more focused on what is an incredibly challenging issue. We want to have a conversation. There's a national conversation right now. I came into school this morning and I heard it on the car radio probably for the 15th time this summer, either in social media or on the news or on the radio, various states exploring the idea of banning phones. And I think when you consider something that sizable, you need a conversation. You need to hear from parents and students and teachers over the course of time. And so one goal this year will be to have that dialogue and to get that input and to think about what we want our cell phone policy to be. It's a tough one. So those are our district goals. Any thoughts or questions on those 4 goals?
What do you think the cell phone policy should be?
Well, on a personal level, what I think adolescents need for their health and development is time away from their screens. And so whether it's putting it in the phone rack in the classroom, or whether it's just, even if it's every other day or every Wednesday, we go really hardcore that we're going low tech, etc. The addiction that we all have to our device, I know I'm not alone, that when I get 5 steps out of the office, if I don't have this, I run back in faster than if I don't have my car keys. And my brain formed, and most of our brains formed, at a time where we didn't have this distraction. So I think our policy should be one that increases instances or lengths of time where the students learn to focus and function and develop without it. What exactly that looks like, I don't know. It's very difficult because there are so many different opinions about it. And it's very difficult to come to some consensus. And I think we want to be leaders in the county and in the state, but we're also watching carefully as other states and other school districts attempt pretty ambitious approaches. But that's our goal. So I hope that as the year goes on, we get a lot of spirited, well-informed, varying opinions, and we can come to a consensus that there's buy-in for. It's hard with cell phones to enact a dramatic policy without really building the support throughout the community. I think a major change needs a little bit of time, and if we're going to go to something that major, I think number 4 would really facilitate that.
That may be number 4 next year too. I'm just as we talk about, because this would be such a radical, if you did remove them, and I'm not saying we would, I'm not saying we wouldn't, but this level of discourse is, I think, sufficient enough that there's at least the possibility, whether it's remote or likely, that this conversation will continue beyond June 15th.
Yeah, it would be great to get student feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Considering that a lot of our students are practically adults, and that having them control or decide, be an agent
Right.
in managing their own cell phone use is critical.
And I think what's
That's a
striking
skill
is,
that
I
we
know
can-
Kyle and I shared some articles at our recent admin meetings. I think increasingly you see students aware of that. So I think more than ever before, you see the students saying, this has not really brought me a great deal of happiness. Not that it's, no one's talking about getting rid of phones, but when we grew up, we were able to turn it off at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and you got some peace from it. And the kids don't they go to bed with it in most instances, they wake up with it, and so the pressures of social media that it creates, the attention span issues, etc., it's something we have to focus more intently on. So, thanks. All right. We have gone through QSAC, and it was a great deal of work. Every 3 years, all districts go through QSAC, and we're evaluated in 5 areas. There is nothing that happens from the utility bill to the curriculum to certification to background checks, etc. Every single facet of the school is monitored. It's about a year-long process, and about this time last year we were getting ready to find out what we had to provide for QSAC, and we had a site visit in February. We've got our results, and here we are presenting them. I want to thank some of the people in this room. This is Lori Kaufman in particular, Ms. Jessica Briggs, and others for the great work that they did on this. We scored 100 in every area where there was a compliance piece. However, in the area where it was student performance, it's not possible to score 100. So you'll see, and really, not every district scores 100 in those others. But we did, and we're very proud of that. Feel free to
Ma'am,
ask
would you
questions.
like to?
So, here's the area where we lost points. Everybody lost points. You can't get a perfect score in this area. This aspect of instruction and programming was worth 60 points. We earned 34.4, 5.6 points shy of passing. This component looked at NJSLA scores for ELA and math, student attendance, and graduation rate. And that's what we earned 34.4 out of 60. So we're proud that, and by the way, the compliance piece, I don't want to dust over that. The DOE was exceedingly praiseworthy of how organized and on top of every requirement and proficient we were. They were absolutely overwhelmed with their visit here. So we got incredibly high rate marks. The student performance is why we did not pass. Important to note that the student performance was from the 22-23 school year. So they came and they monitored us last year, but it was based on the 22-23 results. And you'll see the metrics there for the 4 areas that reflected student performance, okay? English, math, student absenteeism, and graduation rate. I'm happy to report that we already have made tremendous growth in all of those areas. I assume the graduation rate, that's not been released yet. Our English test scores are up over 10%. Our math scores went up. Our chronic absenteeism rate dropped considerably. So in the 4 areas where we lost points and as a result didn't pass QSAC in 22-23, we have already made sizable progress toward improvement during this past year. And we have a plan to continue that pattern. Yeah.
Quick question, what is the chronic absenteeism, what is that percentage?
Sure,
mean?
chronic
Is that-
absenteeism
that
is
percentage of the whole
the
population?
percentage of students at the school that are absent more than 10% of the school days, which means 18 days.
Okay.
Now, on a whole nother note, on the agenda tonight, there's an action plan specifically for chronic absenteeism. So we're kind of double planning here because it's now a state requirement that any school district whose chronic absenteeism rate is above 10% must be on an action plan. I don't think there's a district in this county not on an action plan. Likewise,
Or in the state.
what's that?
Or in the state.
Probably. Likewise, I mentioned with QSAC that every district gets monitored every 3 years. So in our county, we were one of 8 schools that got monitored last year. I believe 7 of them are also on an improvement plan for not having scored 80 points in that IMP. So we are far from alone, and I'll just say, sure there is a drop in scores coming out of COVID, that's for sure, but even without COVID, NJSLA, there are years where only 40 or 45% of students statewide demonstrate proficiency. So it's an extremely challenging metric, and that's why the majority of schools go on to an improvement plan like ours. So we're happy we're making progress, but we have to make more progress.
We don't want the board or the public to be under the misapprehension that we are pleased with the student performance data. This is something we take very seriously, and we are very focused on ensuring that those numbers improve. We do feel good about the manner in which the district is run. We believe it's run exceptionally well, as good as any, at least in the county, if not beyond. And so we're very proud of the job that we do in running the district, but I don't want anyone to think that we're brushing over those numbers as though they're unimportant. They are the reason why we're here, and they are the most important numbers listed. While we're proud of the other numbers at 100%, the numbers that we see in student performance are not acceptable, and we will focus on them with great effort.
Thank you. So the improvement plan, which is on the agenda tonight, it was a collaborative effort back and forth with the Department of Ed, the local office in Sparta. We submitted plans, they sent them back, we talked extensively. To improve the math and English scores, we have 2, I think, clear and simple goals. One is students need to see more assessment-like questions. They need this in science, social studies, English, and math. they need to know that when they take that test in May, they are exceedingly familiar and confident with the content and the format of the assessment. We also, and this is an area that the county office was very, I don't want to say insistent on, but they're going to be here to observe how our improvement plan is going during the year. And they want to see us expand that cycle of teaching where you teach and you test, but then you reflect, you return the assessment, and you reteach where there was a lack of mastery and reassess. That's challenging. That takes time. That takes work. That's difficult. But we have to do more, and our teachers do it. But we need more of that. We need a greater commitment of resources towards the learning cycle when students struggle. And of course, the challenge is, well, I only have until June, and that's the hurdle that we have to try and cross. But we will, and we believe our scores will continue to increase as they did this past year.
The assessment test, what does it do towards the student? Anything? Or is it simply just a test for state numbers?
I will have to be honest with you that when they took that test in 22-23, I went into every freshman English class to give them a pep talk. And the teachers have increasingly, in Park years ago, there was all this divisiveness. We're past that. Everybody's on board with the fact that these tests have to be taken seriously. But when I went in on a Thursday to the freshman classes and I told them, we want you to be, to look good. You care about your teacher, and we care about our school, and we're proud of what we do, and if we're going to do something, we're going to do it well. And I also told them, if you do well, it will meet your graduation requirement, and you won't have to do like a portfolio when you're a senior.
So yeah, that's my question.
Hold on.
Because
It
if
was
that
on Thursday. On Monday, Trenton released a broadcast that said, this test no longer counts for graduation. I'm not making this up.
So therefore, they, you know, we go by these scores. We want to look at these scores, but some of the kids could just be playing connect the dots
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
making graphs and designs out of the test form. So
The validity is.
it seems like a waste of
But
effort
when they
and
don't
time.
see it counting towards their grades, a lot of them don't.
How about by school? Can you by school, or is this total state mandated? Can you give a credit? Can you give an extra grade? Can you give something?
No, 100% mandated by statute.
Yeah. It's,
However, I will say, as frustrating as it is, the opt-out and the click-through continues to become less of an issue. What happens is you build a relationship with the students in your classroom, and that 9th grade English teacher and that 9th grade math teacher are really proud of their students' results. They look at how their student did in 8th grade, and they say, I think we could get this kid to a passing score. They were at 730 last year. Our teachers care, and students, when they know the teacher cares, they put forth a good effort. So that does happen. We track time on task. We get the data when the test is over, and we can see how many students just click through. It's dramatically less than it was, but the fact that there's no tangible purpose to the student is frustrating.
but there's still enough of a number to bring the numbers down.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
So we can't use those numbers as a super solid guideline.
No, and I'll also say that in defense of our math scores, Algebra 1 is the most unique course in all of high school because in some districts, almost every student takes it in 8th grade. In some districts, almost every student takes it in 9th grade. So when you try and look at how your math scores compare to another school, it's very, very difficult because you don't know. For example, our geometry scores are very strong. Kudos to the teachers and the students. But our geometry assessment results are typically the freshmen who took and passed Algebra 1 in 8th grade, therefore it's our stronger students. So it's hard to compare. And I also will say this, we don't complain about our score, we just use it as motivation to do better. However, we are unique as a 9 to 12, and the rubric for CUSAC is, I believe, more punitive. There's no other construct other than 9 to 12 where math and English counts as much towards your IMP. So if you're a K to 8 if you're a K-12, at Sparta and Vernon and Opakon, these scores do not count as much towards their final product. So it's not a perfect system, but as Dr. Ripley said, we don't cry about that. We use it as motivation. Let's learn what we need to learn, and let's see if we can get measurable improvement out of it. Also, we have an MTSS team that every single week in the principal's conference room. Mr. Talame, Mrs. Delaney, one of our guidance counselors, Mrs. Fenicario, and Ms. Began lead a team that looks at data and tries to come up with plans to support students. Well, one of those meetings each month is going to be dedicated specifically to ensure that we're quick on the jump to find 12th graders or 11th graders who could be credit deficient and to identify chronic absenteeism. But I have to say, Mr. Emma, Mrs. Sarno, Mr. Talame, Mr. Rice, a lot of our resources this past year, you saw that drop in chronic absenteeism. So great job to our staff who's already making progress in those areas.
We've invested very heavily in this area in the last several years in human resources. We've hired people in guidance, extra guidance counselors that we did not have previously, because we recognize that this is the area where kids, particularly at-risk kids, need an adult who is monitoring their progress, almost as though a child study team mentality, where every child, particularly every at-risk child, has a relationship with a specific adult who is assigned to them to monitor their progress. As a team, we meet as an MTSS team and as individuals, so that no kid, particularly at-risk kids, we're really focusing on here with the MTSS, so that no kids are getting lost and falling through the cracks. And so that requires an investment in human resources, because you could not do it otherwise. Software works to a certain degree, but it is those specific relationships between adults and children that enables kids to feel connected, that feel loved, that someone cares about them. And so we have invested heavily in human resources in this area, particularly for this area. And I think that education is moving in this direction, and I think that districts who've had to reduce staffing are probably acutely aware of what they're going to have to deny kids. And I don't mean that they have to because of the nature of school funding, because it is such an important component to provide human resources in this area. I'm sorry.
No. So that's where we're at right now, publicly presenting. Our plan goes into effect next week, and the Department of Ed will be monitoring our progress as we go. We've also reached out to some of our neighbors in the region who have done well and said, what did you do? I called several districts, particularly districts I know that are very supportive of retesting. So one of the elements in our action plan to give more time to that cycle of reassessment came from our consultation with districts in the region that did particularly well on the NJSLA.
So how does that work, the reassessment?
It can work so many ways, right? There's a variety of ways, and when we meet with the teachers on Tuesday, we're going to begin to collaborate. What are we doing now that we think is highly effective? What could we?
But I mean,
sure.
The score that's recorded for a student, does that disappear then with the new? When they take it again, is that?
There's a million different ways to
Okay.
do it. I'll give you one example. If I give a math assessment on polynomials, and well, let's say there's 3 concepts on the math test. It's a summative assessment. We've been working on it for 2 weeks, and I get it. And half the students really didn't do well on this one standard. I'm going to give the test back. We're going to use time during the class to work on what we didn't do well, and I'm going to give them a brief quiz at the end of the period and allow that to bolster their original grade. Or even give them a new standalone quiz grade. The idea is how you do it is to be worked out.
I misunderstood. I thought it was a reassessment of the NJ.
Oh, no. It's
That's
just,
the one done.
It's just, and we have teachers that are doing great things, and we have to leverage what's already working in-house, and then get more teachers to participate in that.
Purpose of PLCs.
So the NJ GPA. Now this is the assessment that's 3 years old that counts for graduation. Okay, it's very similar to the NJSLA, so it is frustrating. Required by statute that all juniors take it. It is the primary mechanism by which they meet the 45-year-long mandate that a high school graduate show proficiency in English and math. Here are our results. In English, nearly 80% of our juniors were proficient. In math, nearly 60% were proficient. If you look at the state, that is, we're not satisfied with that. There's some positive to glean from that, but we want to be above the state in every metric. I will say that the test is very similar to the NJSLA, and I think that shows significant growth that we should be encouraged by. But we want, it's not just the NJSLA, that's for our action plan. We want more and more of our 11th graders to just knock this out of the park and have their graduation requirement quickly met. Last week, I sent home a letter to the parents of all incoming seniors, a variety of different letters. One, you passed everything, your child, and I sent it to the students as well, you've met all your requirements. Two, you need math and English, or you need math, or you need English. Here's how you meet this requirement. You get a 725 or greater on the NJ GPA. You demonstrate a qualifying score on a test such as the PSAT or the SAT. Unfortunately, in the last 2 years, they've greatly reduced the number of tests. NJSLA used to be one, the ASVAB used to be one. So they've really pared it down and given the students fewer options. 3, do the graduation portfolio. It's a quality process. You do real meaningful tasks guided by a teacher, and the learning process is authentic. It's not Scantron, it's not, it's a very good process, and every one of our students succeed. The letter affirmed. Mr. Talamay and I, for years, get a lump in our throat when we tell these 12th grade students that after 13 years, you're still not qualified to graduate. It's unfair, it hurts, it's not right. And this year, we're very proud of the fact that we're coming right out of the gate. We have 51 seniors who need to do the portfolio, and we're getting them going on it next week, because we want these students to have that requirement completed and to not get into March and April, May and still feel as if they have some requirement. So students get panicked when they get this, and you put the letter, how many ways can you say it? You're gonna be fine. First thing we're doing is giving them personalized meetings with their counselor next week when they get back, so the counselor can find out who's anxious about this and make sure we reassure them. Now here are our results. Our participation rate was excellent. We are required by law to present how different subgroups did. First off, in green, in math, there was little discrepancy between male and female students. I think that's a positive. We are prohibited by law from reporting on any demographic group that has less than 10 students. So that would be generally some of our racial groups. However, down towards the bottom, what you'll see is we are concerned about the discrepancy in proficiency among students who are economically disadvantaged and those that are not, and students with IEPs and those without IEPs. So as we tackle this problem this year, we will continue to look at how to support those students. And by the way, the state 2 years ago changed the requirement. The number of students now who don't take it is very, very small. There used to be a lot of students with IEPs where they would give them an alternative assessment. It's now almost every student, and I think that's a good thing, but nonetheless, that is an issue. Here is our ELA. You'll see every single time we do this, greater proficiency for female students in language arts. Ms. Jacqueline McCarthy and our English teachers are putting a lot of energy into choice reading, and I think this particularly helps our male students. When they have choice on what they're going to read, we've done a good job of getting better engagement. Again, you'll see on the bottom, we need to close the gap when it comes to socioeconomics and IEPs. And could do more.
No,
Wait, any questions?
That which was reported this evening is required by law, so it wasn't Mr. Campbell getting his monthly affirmation.
It's actually, we actually get CUSAC points for having documented that we did that, so.
And you did it very thoroughly,
Right, so,
thank you.
thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Camp. That's it for presentations. Move through other business. I think there's two bullets here that, just to note, teacher orientation will be held August 28th, 29th, and substitute orientation was held today. So there's one item under other business related to our district goals. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the following district goals for the 2024-2025 school year. And since we just saw them up on the screen, I won't read them individually. So I would like to make that motion for that resolution. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or comments on our district goals? Have a roll call, please.
Ms. Orsi?
Yes.
Mr. Jonah?
Yes.
Mr. Van Stone?
Yes.
Mrs. Diaz?
Yes.
Mr. Comforth?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Sorry. Sorry.
That's all right. Now moving on to action items. First is curriculum instruction and technology.
So just to draw attention to the faculty attendance for June, there was no student attendance reported. The suspension report for June, there were have attachments. And then I'd like to move items 4 through 25 together. 4 is the harassment, intimidation, and bullying reports for June 26th through June 30th, 24, and July through August 27th, 2024. With attachment. Number 5 are field trips. Number 6 is professional development activities. Number 7 is the comprehensive equity plan statement of assurance that extends 2019 to 2022 through 2025. There's an attachment on that. Number 8 is to use EduSeer Online as a virtual provider for this school year. Number 9 is to use the Danielson framework for teaching, the teaching evaluation for teachers and other certificated staff, and the Marshall Principal rubric for administrators. Number 10 is the choice students for 24-25. Number 11 are the NJSLA, New Jersey Student Learning Standards as listed. Number 12 is the District Professional Development Plan and the new Teacher Mentoring Plan for 24-25. And there are links to those. Number 13 is the use of the Rubicon Atlas curriculum maps. And there's also a link for that. Number 14 is the 24-25 staff handbook, the link. Number 15 is the student handbook for the school year with a link. Number 16 is the Elementary and Secondary Education Acts, IDEA, and the Carl D. Perkins Career Tech Grant applications. We accept the following awards as listed for those funds. Number 17 is to approve the joining of a consortium of Sussex County Schools for Title III funding through the ESEA grants, and we accept that award. Number 18 is the CUSAC District Improvement Plan. There's a link for that too, and it's just in Mr. Campbell's presentation. Number 19 is the Local Education Agency Guidance for Virtual Remote Instruction Plan Checklist for 24-25, and there is a link. Number 20 is the assessment schedule for the school year. Number 21 is the Anti-Discrimination and Anti-Harassment Handbook, affirmative action for the school year with a link. Number 25, work-based learning program in various locations around the county for this school year. Number 23, to approve the chronic absenteeism corrective action plan for this school year with a link. 24 is for curriculum materials, a link as well. And number 25 is the revised 2024-25 school calendar, which reflects half-day schedules for professional development for staff. So I'm making a motion, give me a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have
have a question on the,
Mhm.
just on the calendar. It says for, if we exceed because of, I guess, bad weather and whatnot, it says February 17th, and then it says the April 24th, April 25th, which would mean we return a Thursday, and then a Friday, and then a Wednesday?
Yes, that was several years ago when this was relevant. We did a district-wide survey as to the dates that they wanted to be to lose first, if it were, as it were, and that was what was established, and so we've maintained that since.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Van Stone?
Yes, to
Ms. Orsi?
Yes.
Mrs. Diaz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Conforth?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes. So that was curriculum instruction. So moving to personnel.
Okay, I'd like to move items 1 through 13. Number 1 has to do with the resignation of a special events security officer. Number 2 is the approval to rescind the appointment of a special ed teacher. Number 3 is to approve administrators for the Saturday detention coverage. Number 4 is to approve substitutes. Number 5 is to approve home instructors and tutors. Number 6 is to approve bus aides. Number 7 is the approval of a co-op student for the main office and guidance office. Number 8 is approval of after-school detention advisor. Number 9 is approval of coverage the board secretary coverage during the Board of Ed meetings and committee meetings. Number 10 is to approve the part-time school security officer. Number 11 is to accept the resignation notification of the music teacher. Number 12 is to approve the 6th period assignments. And number 13 is to approve the summer workshop days. Making a motion, seeking a second? Second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Conforth?
Yes.
Mrs. Diaz?
Yes.
Ms. Orsi?
Yes.
Mr. Van Stone?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Dona?
Yes.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes. I will move under extracurricular items 1 through 9 together. Item 1 being recommendation to approve John Mayer and Miriam Holder to assist with previously approved sports physicals. 2 is recommendation to accept the resignation of Mark Russell as assistant girls volleyball coach. 3, recommendation to accept the resignation of Casey Carroll as marching band director. 4, to accept the resignation of James Aslanian as assistant marching band director. 5, to approve the following extracurricular appointments for the 24-25 school year, and they are as listed in the table. 6 is recommendation to approve the following volunteer coaches advisors pending background checks. 7 is a recommendation to approve the creation of Bring Change to Mind, a new club which empowers students to advocate with friends, teachers, and others for mental health awareness as outlined in the link below. Item 8 is a recommendation to approve Wantage Township First Aid Squad to provide ambulance coverage for our home football games for the 24-25 school year as a volunteer service with no cost to the board. And item 9 is a recommendation to approve the following individuals as volunteers to assist with the fall drama and spring musical, and they are as listed. So I'll make that motion 1 through 9. May I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or discussion?
Just a question on number 7. The 2 teachers are voluntary advisors. Is this a process for them in the future to become a paid
No.
EDP?
There is none.
There is not, okay.
So High Point has a significantly vast number of extracurricular positions, and that there's a financial commitment in that regard. And so what we've seen is over the last several years, we've determined that we can only sustain so much fiscal commitment to these, but we do have a committed staff who want very much to bring forward their expertise in areas that they believe that they can have an impact on our student body. And so what they've recognized over the last, I think it's 7, 8 years, that any subsequent extracurricular opportunities will be as a volunteer only. Certainly that conversation can be had in the future. I believe that we still are in the throes of financial challenges, such that I believe that our fiscal situation informs the continuation of the policy to continue to make them volunteer.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll take the roll call. 1 through 9, please.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Conforth?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Mrs. Diaz?
Yes.
Mr. Van Stone?
Yes, to all.
Ms. Orsi?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes. D, policy, 1 page, but.
Yeah, I'd like to move items 1 through 1 and 2 together. Number 1 is a recommendation to approve to abolish the following policy, due to remote public board meetings during a declared emergency. Number 2 is the approval of the following revised policies and regulations. We have board member number and term, we have curriculum content, we have physical examinations, we have attendance, we have service animals, student suicide prevention, emergency crisis situations, firearms and weapons, and volunteer athletic coaches and co-curricular advisors and assistants. And I just would like to note that all but 2 of these policies and regulations are mandated and by the state. So making a motion, seeking a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
It's okay. No, they're good questions, it's all good.
On policy 2200, there is a line on the 3rd paragraph that is slashed, which would eliminate the board approving curriculum content.
I would have to have that in front of me. Can you get it out?
What was it?
Policy 2200.
I believe that this strike through is relevant to, it does not remove the board's approval of curriculum. As you can see, we did approve the curriculum already. What it does is, it removes that line where it stipulates it in that line, and it is.
Yeah, I didn't read it anywhere else in that, that's why I'm asking.
States that the superintendent is responsible for implementing the curriculum approved by the board. I would have to go back into the notes as to why this particular line was struck by the company who provides these to us. As you can see that there was several, and I would have to go back into the notes to see precisely as to why that particular line was struck. I'd have to read.
Can number 2 be cut off and put on next month?
Yeah, we can
Maybe just
refer it
table
back.
that one policy.
Just
Yeah.
give me a second, I might be
Okay.
able to come.
Yeah.
Because that particular line is addressed in the first paragraph. The board shall annually approve a list of all programs and courses that comprise the district's curriculum and shall approve any subsequent changes in the curriculum in accordance with policy 2220 adoption of courses. So that would be, what happens is they strike things which are previously stated.
Okay.
That therefore prove redundant, and so therefore I believe that is precisely as to why that particular line has been stricken.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And on regulation 5200.
Mhm.
Just to clarify, because the regulation says college visits up to 3 days per school year, however, the school normally goes 4 days. So that we are going above and beyond what this,
And so here's the difference, right? So there is a definition for chronic absenteeism given by the state and the federal government that so stipulates how they calculate chronic absenteeism. However, outside of those specifically delineated reasons, religious holiday, school, college visit, or bring your child to work day, believe it or not. Outside of those specifically designated dates, it is a board determination as to what can be determined as an excused absence. So the board can say, we believe it's appropriate that a child goes to the doctor and provides a note that we excuse that. That is not excused according to chronic absenteeism, but it is under policy regulation 5200
Right.
that I'm putting forward to the board for them to vote upon. It is my belief that it should be calculated as an excused absence.
okay.
And so that's, and I know I'm rambling on about this, the specific question to which you were seeking clarity was?
That this states 3 days, but I
Oh,
know at the high
yes.
school they're allowed 4,
Yes.
so I wanted to know why there's a discrepancy between those two numbers.
Right, because the state and federal government allow, I think, 3 and we allow 4.
Okay, and then the last item.
Honestly, because I thought that 4 was
Makes more sense.
a more appropriate allowance.
Okay, under instruction on that same regulation, number 1, teachers will cooperate in the preparation of home assignments for students who anticipate any length of absence. Okay, so they anticipate, they know on Monday they're going to be out next Monday for a week, and they ask their teacher for work. That's, okay, good, but if they come in Friday morning, they're not gonna be here Monday. So what is an anticipated time, like what,
Right.
like, what are we
There-
holding the teachers to
Right.
being, okay, that's fair, and that's not fair.
You'll notice that whether it's in that particular paragraph or elsewhere, it stipulates a reasonable amount of time.
Right, so my question was, is there somewhere where that reasonable amount of time is identified?
That's why we pay supervisors and administrators to determine
Okay.
through their discretion what they believe is a reasonable amount of time.
And that does exist at the high school?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Curious what the change was on the board member number and term, that was not one that we usually see.
It wasn't really
Modifications.
changes, it was just change in verbiage to comply with updated definitions in code.
I asked about that. Alright, any other things? Okay, roll call please.
Okay, Mr. Conforth,
Yes.
Mrs. Diaz,
No to 1 and yes to 2.
okay, Ms. Orsi,
Yes.
Mr. Van Stone,
That's to both.
Mrs. Jonah,
Yes.
Ms. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes. We have no negotiation action items, but I will note that the board is presently engaged with the HPEA in ongoing negotiations. We also have no buildings and grounds action items, but I did want to mention we have a new set of stairs in the back that Dr. Ripley sent me a picture of that I'm very excited, that I'm sure people that attend the football game Thursday night will be very excited to partake in. So,
Yeah, curiously, thankfully, we've dodged the 50-year bullet, and now we have the ability to walk down what are rather steep incline. Not one that I used to think was too steep, but now as I approach a certain age, I'm
It's
a
getting
little
more
more
of an
trepidatious
angle.
of that hill, less so now that there's stairs.
yes. And that was done basically in-house too,
Yes.
so
Yep.
incredible. And we just, obviously we have a lot of HVAC work being done. I don't wanna go into too many details on that, but hope to have that completed as soon as possible. So then moving to finance, I will move 1 through 12 together. 1 is recommendation, accept the report of the board secretary, business administrator for June 2024. 2 is recommendation, accept the report of the treasurer for the same month, Item 3 is recommendation to accept the report of transfers and minimum expense transfer report for the months of June and July 24. Item 4 is a recommendation to approve the attached schedule of audited bills, and those are for 3 periods, as noted. 5 is a recommendation to accept all of those accounts that I normally read, but I won't, for June and July of 2024. 6 is a recommendation to approve the following substitute pay schedule as listed. 7 is a recommendation to approve an interlocal shared service agreement for nursing services with Lafayette, Montague, and Frankfurt Boards of Education for the 2024-25 school year. Item 8 is a recommendation to approve a shared service agreement with the Montague Board of Education for the position of Board Certified Behavioral Analyst for current year. Item 9 is a recommendation to approve and authorize execution of an agreement between the Ed Services Commission of Morris County and the High Point Regional Board of Education to provide health and environmental safety services for the current year. Item 10 is a recommendation to approve the student accident insurance renewal proposal between High Point and Bollinger Specialty Group effective July 2024 through June 30th, 2025. Item 11 is a recommendation to acknowledge and gratefully accept donations in the amount of $2,500 from the Weiss family and $2,500 from Atlas Construction to be used to purchase new football uniforms. Item 12 is a recommendation to authorize the execution of the following tuition contracts between High Point as the sending district and the following districts as listed there in that lengthy table that takes us through to the end. That's the last item. Okay, so I'll make that motion 1 through 12 in finance.
I'll second it.
Any comments, discussions?
Just thankful for the donations.
Yes.
For the first.
That's very generous. Thank you, both the Weiss family and Atlas Construction, Christine Stoyer.
And I'd just like to note all those, out-of-school district tuitions that we have no control of the increases that take place when we still have to keep the 2% cap, which are well above 2% increases. Would I be correct in saying that?
It's another
Yes, I
component
actually
of
did that.
having a sending districts and a high school district where you have no input into the P to 8 IEPs. And so when IEPs come to you, and you must remain compliant to those IEPs. And the fact that we are able to assess those IEPs and provide input and recommendations for appropriate IEP placements in an incredibly quick amount of time is a testimony to our Director of Special Education and our Child Study team that work very hard to try to get those kids assessed and in the proper placement.
Could you briefly explain number 7, the nursing agreement?
Yes, so what happens is, each district involved in that agreement agrees that should one of those districts be without a nurse for a particular date, because nurses are more scarce than bus drivers. And so what happens is, you can try to have a substitute bus driver and a substitute nurse, but if you can't locate a substitute nurse, you can't have school. And so one of the ways in which we've managed that is to have an agreement with our sending districts that we provide a nursing services should one of us be without that for the particular day. That way nobody has to close.
And I know we had that last year.
Yes, I think this is the 3rd year of that in place between the 4 up to 5.
No other discussion or comments? I'll take a roll call.
Ms. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Conforth?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mrs. Diaz?
Yes.
Mr. Van Stone?
Yes to all.
Ms. Orsi,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes. H, transportation, Mr. Conklin.
Sure, I'm gonna put 1 through 32 together. It's basically gonna cover all transportation needs for the 24-25 school year to include regular school, transport, sports, activities, and interscholastic transportation amongst other schools.
Very good.
Yes.
Discussion,
Need a
comments?
second? No,
I'll take a second.
Where you
Now
been
I
for
see.
12 years?
We thought Joe was good. Joe
Peraza.
Peraza, yeah.
You seconded it? Okay.
Yeah, I seconded it.
Roll call, please.
All right. Mrs. Diaz,
Yes.
Ms. Orsi,
Yes.
Mr. Van Stone,
Yeah.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
Mr. Conforth,
Yes.
Ms. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes. We have no legal action items.
Shed a tear.
To make up for Mr. Campbell's presentation.
Hey, we know July meeting, come on.
He banked his time. We have no correspondence under miscellaneous, just noting school board mandated training. Ms. Diaz, you can contact our,
Business administrator will be able to provide you with any updates as to any mandated training that's required, and he'll arrange for that for you.
So, second public comment section of the evening. Please state your name and address. No limit on agenda items. Any public comments in the room? Anything virtual?
Nope.
I have a motion to close public comments.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Any non-committee board member reports or comments?
I have a comment. Since number 4 is a goal to look at phone usage, I would recommend the book The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, which specifically looks at what the cell phone use is doing to our young people's minds. And it is a driving factor in Morris County, because Morris County principals have all kind of unified in setting up drafts of policies, so that we can't say, well, in that district they do this, and in that district they don't. We're trying to be very uniform in what we're doing in Morris County.
Yes, Mr. Campbell?
So, Mr. Talmy, just recommended an Adventine grade, that's our summer reading, book. So we've got 10 copies.
That one?
of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's very good.
You've already bought it on Amazon then?
Yes.
Right, the
Yep.
order's in?
Some are further than others, but yes, we just started. It's really good.
We're doing it as a district parent and district book club in Jefferson. We'll see how it goes.
Yes.
We have nothing under our other business. Oprah requests look pretty sparse this
Good.
month.
We like that.
Yes. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.